Well, hello and welcome back to my kitchen table. Goodness me, what a day we're having. What a day we're having. So much news and so much non-news, so much potential news out there today. But let's start with Hyundai because that is news, although it's news of a sort. We haven't got the full story about Hyundai, and that's where I want to start. I want to start with an apology. Dani Sordo and all my Spanish friends. Anyone who knows me, anyone who knows what I do will know that I have absolutely no agenda whatsoever in what I say. All I want to do is bring to you, the fans, the news, speculation, the analysis of what's going on in the World Rally Championship. Now, because of a tweet that I put out earlier, which was slightly badly worded, I have to admit that, it seems that half of Spain is after me. I'm in hiding. Can't go out without a disguise. I suggested that perhaps Dani Sordo would be dropped for GB and for Australia. Now, what did I base that on? Nothing to do with xenophobia, nothing to do with disliking Dani. Speak to Papa Sordo and you'll find out how much admiration, how much respect I have for Dani Sordo. And it's nonsense. Thank goodness I can't speak Spanish because I don't understand all of it. Maybe I should make an effort to understand all of it. In fact, I should and I will. But this nonsense about the fact that, I'm always backing British drivers. Well, again, anyone who knows me will understand that my favourite driver is a Norwegian. My second favourite driver is a Frenchman. How does that all sit in and tie up with the nonsense that's being said right now? I understand that Dani has a massively passionate following. We are all passionate about rallying. And I respect that. And I also understand what Twitter and social media is all about. I respect that as well. But a genuine mistake, and apologies for it, speculation. And listen, everything about the Hyundai driver lineup right now is speculation. What do we know? Let's start with the facts. We know there are 3 rounds to go. We know that Hyundai have taken on the services for Andreas Mikkelsen for the remaining 3 rounds, possibly for next year as well. We'll come on to that shortly. We know that. We know that the 2 drivers for the remaining 3 rounds will be Thierry Neuville and Andreas Mikkelsen. Who is the 3rd driver? Well, let's just be clear about this. I will read this to you. This is the official statement from Hyundai. All 3 of Hyundai Motorsport's existing crews will remain under contract with the team, but the specific lineup will differ, here's the important part, in each of the remaining rounds of the season. The lineup will differ in each of the remaining rounds. That means that the lineup for Spain, which will probably be Mikkelsen, Neuville, Sordo, that's almost odds on, will not be the same for GB. And if you take that to its literal meaning, whatever the lineup is in GB will not be the same for Australia. So I apologise if I got things wrong, but it's open to speculation, and it is not me who is causing that speculation. It is, unfortunately, the slightly ambiguous press release from Hyundai and the fact that they quite rightly want to keep all their cards close. They do not want, clearly, to tell us everything yet because, they want to keep their cards close. They're in a fight for the manufacturers. That seems unlikely. But Neuville is definitely in a fight for the driver's title, and until they have to, they're not going to tell us what their strategy is for the remaining 3 rounds. But what we can, I think, very realistically speculate about is Spain. Has to be Sordo in Spain because he has a chance of winning. Australia, 98% certain it will have to be Padden in Australia because, again, he has a chance of winning. The one area which is still grey is GB. But as Hyundai have said themselves, the GB lineup will differ from the lineup in Spain. It's all very, very difficult to work out and to understand. And again, I apologise in particular to Dani if I've upset him. But that's what we do. We're here to analyse. We are here to speculate. We are here to, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, entertain. That's what we try and do. And I try to entertain, but within limits. I try to entertain using my knowledge, using my experience, using my intelligence. Sometimes that goes out the window. Fair play. Reasonable accusation. I'm accusing myself of that. But if I had my way again, I would reword that initial tweet. There we are. Still there. I won't remove it, but I would reword it. So, the news. Mikkelsen. Great news for Andreas Mikkelsen. I think he did a great job in Germany, no question about it. I thought before Germany, very, very tenuous his longevity in the World Rally Championship. If things hadn't gone his way in Germany, Mikkelsen may have been in trouble. But he did a great job, no question about that. Hyundai clearly haven't achieved this year what they wanted to achieve. Their driver lineup hasn't achieved what they wanted to achieve. I think the car, it's fair to say, has been pretty good. They are more or less out the manufacturers. That would take a set of circumstances which is almost beyond reality for them to win the manufacturers. It is still mathematically possible, very difficult. They have a real chance of winning the drivers, but Ogier is in the box seat. They had to do something, Hyundai. They were the pre-season favourites. They were the only team that had 3 proven winners in their lineup, and they were the strongest team at the start of the year. And I think, even although they've won rallies this year, if they go away without a title at the end of this year, they will be extremely disappointed, because what they know, what they are fully aware of, is that next season the championship becomes even more difficult, because Toyota will be up to speed. Citroen, fingers crossed, will be up to speed, and M-Sport could be up to speed. Let's wait and see. So they had to do something. They brought Mikkelsen in. Great news for Andreas Mikkelsen. He can do a job, no question about that. I still think that there is room for improvement with Andreas Mikkelsen, but when that improvement comes, he could well be a regular challenger for rally wins, and that will be great to see. Can he win before the end of the year? Well, it's possible. Not a bad starting position, certainly, for Spain. Really good starting position. Remember, day one, gravel, really good position to start off with, as long as it doesn't rain, and it has rained in Spain over recent years. We go to GB, start position, not such an enormous factor, but it could play into his hands. And then, potentially, Australia could very much play into Mikkelsen's hands. So I think he can win before the end of the year, but I think more importantly, he is there to support his friend and now his colleague and teammate, Thierry Neuville. Neuville needs a wingman. I keep saying it, I've been saying it since the start of the year. Neuville needs a wingman. He has one now. One that he can rely on, one that he can depend on, and one who potentially, as we saw in Germany, can take points away from Sebastian Ogier. That could be so important come the end of the year. So anyway, gee whiz, I'm going to go and have a wee whiskey after this, just to settle my nerves. I don't like upsetting anyone. I'm honest. I'm always honest in my thoughts. I do occasionally get facts wrong. I occasionally say things in the wrong way, and I apologise for that. Put my hands up for that. Particularly to all my Spanish friends. Mi compadre. Well, one-time friends. Oh dear. Oh dear. Where are we off to next? Oh yeah, it's Spain. Anyway, let's move on. There is more. There is more. This is just the start of the WRC silly season. There is more to come. I believe that next year, all 4 teams will be different in terms of their driver lineup. Yves Maton has given us a little bit of an indicator of where things might go next year. Let's start with Citroen. Citroen crisis, no question about that. The ship is steadying. Mikkelsen brought the car home very well in Germany. Let's see what it can do in Spain. The ship is steadying, that is for sure. There have been more personnel changes since I talked to you last. Marek, I can't ever pronounce his second name. Marek, the Polish, Marek Neverecki. He's moved on. He's gone to the FIA, and we wish him all the very best. Marek is one of the good guys, really is one of the good guys in the WRC. He was kind of team manager, I suppose, at Citroen, and he's done a great job there over the years. He moves on to the FIA, and we wish him well. But things are changing in terms of the lineup behind the scenes. Are things going to change in terms of driver lineup? Yes, inevitably. Inevitably they are. We've had confirmation today about the lineup for Spain. Mick is safe. That is an indicator that Mick now, I think, is safe till the end of 2018. I'm pretty certain that there was very little doubt about Mick's position. Mick had a firm, will have a firm contract till the end of 2018, which means that unless he decides he's going to go somewhere else, he can drive each rally. And I think that's right. I really think that's right. He's a winner, proven winner. He has the pace. He strange to say it, but maybe lacks a little confidence, particularly after recent events. But that can return. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with Chris Meek. But I think he's on that list. What did Maton say in his release today? Not a release, in his tweet to Mikkelsen, wishing Mikkelsen all the best, but saying that they considered Mikkelsen for 2018. This is another indication that Mikkelsen certainly won't be at Citroen next year. I think Mikkelsen has a firm deal for 2018 with Hyundai. But he's not going. What we can say is he's definitely not going to Citroen in 2018, because what Maton said was that they have different priorities. Now, who can be a different priority? Priorities, manufacturers, for sure. They have to be challenging for the manufacturers. Mikkelsen, you'd have thought, would have been a fantastic addition to the lineup. To me, it suggests there's someone else out there that they're talking to, someone that they are confident that they will get for 2018. Who might that be? Elvin Evans? Well, we know Maton likes Evans. He said it in the past, came very close to signing him. Unlikely. Oyt Tanak, he's a proper challenger. And I think he'll be right up there in terms of the Drivers' Championship next year. But I think it's unlikely that he will go to Citroen. Who does that leave? Only one man, Seb Ogier. Again, I'm not basing it on an awful lot, but I believe Ogier is going back to Citroen. I think there is still the potential for Loeb to do some events next year. How does that all fit in? Not really sure. It might fit in if the FIA go to 4 cars. What we're talking about right now is 3 cars. 3 cars next year. 4 cars in each team next year, which is apparently what might well go in front of the World Motorsport Council, will be a saviour. It'll be a saviour in Hyundai for either Dani Sordo or Hayden Paddon. Who's a saviour for in Hyundai? I don't know. But if it's only 3 cars, what happens at Hyundai? They have 4, 3 into 4, doesn't really fit, does it? One of them has to go. Do they? Does one of them have to go? Could there be a little bit of that going on next year? Maybe. We'll see. But let's assume with Citroen that it's 3 cars next year. I genuinely believe that it will be Meek, cast iron certainty. Ogier, odds on to be there. And unfortunately for Craig Breen fans, I think Breen will share a car. And I think there's a chance he may well share that car with Lefebvre, maybe, with Loeb, maybe. If we go to a 4-car team, it then gets really interesting. Because I think that 4th car will be shared between Cassini, Loeb, and Stefan Lefebvre, with Breen having a full-time drive. Oh, it's all rather complicated, isn't it? Listen, this is all off the top of my head. I've given it a lot of thought. It's interesting, but Citroen for me is the home for Sébastien Ogier. There are, I believe, a lot of things to be sorted there, and Loeb, I think, is one of the big ones. I'm pretty certain that the PSA group would love to see Loeb back in that car next year. I think Loeb can do a job in that car next year. So that's my view on Citroen. Still very, very uncertain, but becoming more certain. The Mikkelsen factor is out of the equation. The Ogier factor has come into the equation. The Loeb factor is always there. It's always there. Interesting stuff. So the other team that we haven't talked about, I'll wind this up because I know it's getting a bit long, so I maybe won't give these two quite the time that they deserve. Hyundai, and we've talked about. Toyota, we haven't yet talked about. Toyota, I think, potentially is where Oyt Tanak's going. I think Toyota will make a realistic challenge next year for both drivers and manufacturers. Jari-Matti Latvala, Esa-Pekka Lappi. Well, Lappi will be the number 3 driver if we have a 3-car team. And I think Tanak will be going to Toyota. I think, we'll come on to M-Sport in a minute, but I think with things being so uncertain, with Ford's re-emergence as a full manufacturer, I think that if Tanak was offered the opportunity, he knows he's got his career to be grateful to Malcolm Wilson for. But you know, thinking about the future, if he was offered a deal at Toyota, I think he would have to go. And I think Toyota need another top-line driver. Mikkelsen, again, out the equation now. So it does leave, I think, 2 drivers potentially for that seat in Toyota, one of which, and I think the red-hot favourite, Tanak. The other one, Elfyn Evans. Less likely, a lot less likely. But if we have a 3-car team, for me, it is Latvala, Tanak, Lappi. If we have a 4-car team, Latvala, Tanak, Lappi, and then we would probably have Hänninen, I believe, sharing a car with one or both of our 2 young Japanese drivers at Toyota. Let's wait and see whether that happens. The last team that I want to talk about this afternoon is M-Sport. I am flabbergasted at what is happening there. Malcolm Wilson is doing the most incredible job. Odds on to win the manufacturers, odds on, not odds on, but favourite at this point to win the drivers. A double world championship effort is there for the taking. It's there for Ford, the Ford Motor Company, to embrace. It is there for them to exploit. It is there for them to rejoice in. And it is there for them to repeat. But they seem to choose not to. They've put their money into Rallycross and various other things. And for some reason, they don't see the value of investing back into the WRC. Probable reason for that is that they're getting everything. And Malcolm has been too successful. He's been too successful, you know. They're getting all of this. It's a Ford logo on the front of Ogier's car. It is a Ford logo on Tanak's car. When Tanak wins, when Ogier wins, it is Ford who win. It is not M-Sport. And they make the most of that. And they pay, in relative terms, it's a strong word, in relative terms, I'm not going to use the word I was going to use, but in relative terms, relative to what Toyota, to what Hyundai, what Citroen pay, Ford pay peanuts. They pay peanuts, but they take all the glory, or they can, if they choose to, take all the glory. An esteemed journalist friend of mine went even further, described them as parasites. Ooh, that's a strong thing to say. And I think that's a little bit strong, but I can see where that came from. I would like to see Ford getting behind Mr. Wilson, but I think right now it looks unlikely. And if that does happen, Malcolm's in a difficult situation. I think, what does he do? We can't, and he said it right from the start of the year, and he's been on record saying that he can't keep Ogier. He cannot afford to pay for Ogier out of his own pocket for another season. I think Ogier would quite like to stay at Ford. I think he's enjoyed the whole Ford M-Sport. M-Sport, he's not at Ford, he's at M-Sport. I think Ogier's enjoyed the whole M-Sport experience. In particular, the lack of requirement upon him to give up days for PR work. You know, it might sound like a small thing, but it's a big thing for a driver, particularly a driver with a young family. If he goes to Citroen, he'll have to take all that back on again. He would like to stay, but he can't stay unless Ford come in with the money to pay his salary. And it doesn't look likely. So what looks likely at M-Sport? Well, I think Elfyn Evans looks likely. I think Teemu Suunanen looks likely. They then have a 3rd seat available for a paying driver to be effectively an official point-scoring M-Sport Ford driver. If we go to 4 cars, they have 2 seats available, potentially for paying drivers to be official, almost semi-official, quasi-official factory drivers. That actually might suit Malcolm. It might be more of a selling point to sell those extra 2 seats. We'll have to wait and see, but I feel desperately sorry for Mr. Wilson, for all of those fantastic people up at Dovenby who are, you know, fingers crossed we're proven wrong. Fingers crossed Ford get involved. But it looks less and less likely. The more time that goes by, the less we're seeing of any kind of movement on the Ford position, the less likely it is that they will put the money in for next year. So you've got to feel sorry for Malcolm, but let's keep our fingers crossed something happens there. So there we are. What a day we've had in terms of news, in terms of speculation, in terms of the occasional tweet which might have been slightly misleading. Sorry, Spanish friends. There we are. Anything new that is confirmed, and we'll talk to you again from the kitchen table. But right now, I'm off to have a little whiskey to calm my nerves and to try and placate my friends in Spain. You've been watching me at my kitchen table. Don't forget to give me a follow on Facebook, Colin Clark Rally. Join me again sometime, fingers crossed, next week. See you then.